Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
New episodes every day.
I'm at Government in Ventura County, California, where they're still trying to put out this massive fire. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. They're streaming ABC News Live.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for streaming with us. I'm Rena Roy. Welcome to ABC News Live Weekend. Let's take a look at your top headlines. Portugal is in mourning after a horrific streetcar accident in Lisbon. At least 17 people are dead and another 21 are injured. One of the victims, an American citizen. Authorities say it appears the safety cable broke, which might have caused the streetcar to derail and crash. And parents in the U.S. are facing steeper prices for back-to-school supplies this year, with costs rising 7.3% amid tariffs, according to a new report. The price hikes affect everything from binders and pencils to electronics, and this comes at a time when parents already spend an average of nearly $586 on supplies for one student, according to research by Capital One Shopping. Experts say that buying off-brand in bulk or at thrift stores could yield shoppers some savings. The European Union has banned a key ingredient in many types of gel nail polish. The ingredient is abbreviated TPO and helps give nails their shiny and strong top coat. EU regulators say the ingredient was banned after theoretical reproductive toxicity concerns were raised in animal studies. Limited research has been done in humans. Turning now to our top story, it has been 70 years since the murder of Emmett Till in late August of 1955. After Till and his cousin, Reverend Wheeler Parker Jr., took the train from Chicago to Mississippi, a mob lynched and shot the 14-year-old. This past week, the 86-year-old Reverend took the same train ride to Mississippi, and our Steve Osunsami was there with him as he relived that painful and deeply personal journey.
Republican lawmakers are backing President Trump's efforts to stop the flow of drugs into the U.S. Here's Iowa Senator Joe Nernst.
I fully support the president and his efforts to get rid of the scourge of drugs here in the United States. And going after those narco-terrorists is extremely important. This is a big flex to show Venezuela and Maduro that we're not going to take it anymore.
Let's bring in retired U.S. Army Colonel and former Airborne Ranger Phil Williams. Phil, thank you so much for being here. What is your response to those who are looking at these actions as warmongering? It's hawkish. It's something that could potentially put us towards regime change in Venezuela. What's your response to that?
Well, I think first of all they're denying history. Let's go back and look at President George H.W. Bush, who in 1989 invaded Panama. And we're not talking about an invasion right now. The president said even today he's not looking for regime change, but there are shades here of exactly what we saw in the build-up towards the Panama invasion, Operation Just Cause. And so, yeah, I think absolutely the president is acting within this authority. The hand-wringers and the pearl clutchers are usually wrong on everything, and they're showing it once again. But I do believe the president is well within his constitutional authorities to do what he's doing right now, and this is absolutely a reasonable use of the U.S. military.
How do you see this playing out moving forward? Do you suspect that we will have a more permanent position in the Caribbean between Venezuela and the island nations of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, where we know drugs are being shipped to those islands and then kind of makes its way from there around the world? And do you also maybe foresee us getting involved on the ground in places like Mexico?
Well, I think, first of all, what's the buildup you're seeing right now in the Caribbean with the Naval Strike Force and the Marine Expeditionary Unit being on station, and we are literally putting a signal in place for all of the Central and South American nations and for Mexico that we are no longer going to play footsie with narco-terrorism. But the reality is, too, I don't think we're going to see boots on the ground no time soon. I really don't. I do believe, though, you're looking at the pressures that are going to be brought on Venezuela. That Maduro is probably not long for his office, even if his own people wind up having to do something about it. But we have a presence there. Think about things like Grenada. We've had the Dominican Republic. We were there in the 60s. And, of course, Haiti. We were there in a major, stabilization role not long ago. And then, of course, we have our basing in Puerto Rico. So we certainly have a presence in the Caribbean already. And what you're watching right now, though, is a major ramp-up in the war on narcotics.
On this Saturday night, remembering a hockey giant, the torrent of tributes from Montreal Canadiens Hall of Famer Ken Dryden. His indelible legacy, both on and off the ice.
It's certainly a life well lived and a life of tremendous breadth.
Bracing for turbulence, Air Canada flight attendants resoundingly reject the tentative deal. Will their labor dispute take off again?
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semmel.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Tonight, the worlds of hockey and politics are joined in mourning the loss of one of the all-time greats, Ken Dryden, the Hall of Fame goalie who became a best-selling author, lawyer, politician, and federal cabinet minister, has died of cancer at the age of 78. Dryden led the Montreal Canadiens to 6 Stanley Cups, winning 5 Vezinas for best goaltender in just 8 NHL seasons. And long after he hung up the pads, Dryden continued to shape Canada's game. He was a towering figure, both literally and figuratively, and a wave of tributes are now pouring in from around the world. NHL stars, fans, and Canada's Prime Minister. In a statement, Mark Carney called Dryden Big Canada, saying few Canadians have given more or stood taller for our country. Mike Armstrong looks back at Dryden's unparalleled career and thoughtful compassion in our top story tonight.
There are players who stand out, but none.
Hello, a very good morning. It's 6 o'clock. Coming up on breakfast today, hundreds of arrests as more than 1,000 march on central London in support of the proscribed terrorist group Palestine Action.
And in sports, we'll have all the latest from Flushing Meadows in New York as Sabalenka retains her US Open tennis title.
It's Sunday, 7th of September. The Metropolitan Police criticises intolerable abuse targeted at its officers as more than 400 people are arrested at a Palestine Action protest in central London. You don't expect to the Reds in the rugby continues her return to official duties.
And England picked up all success.
Hello, very good morning. Thanks for joining us here on the Breakfast Show. Our top story today, the Metropolitan Police has condemned what it's described as intolerable abuse against its officers at a Palestine Action protest in central London. More than 400 people were arrested yesterday as 100 protesters marched in support of the proscribed terrorist group. The Met claimed its officers were subjected to physical abuse, but event organisers say the protest was peaceful.
As new names of service people who lost their lives in combat are engraved onto the walls.
Keep your phone handy today, or not, it's your choice, because at 3 o'clock this afternoon, an emergency alert will buzz through to every single phone in Britain. A bit later on in the programme, we'll be debating, is this sensible or scaremongering?
Good morning, they got the job done, but urgent England laid hard work of their win over Minnows and Dora at Villa Park. Fans headed for the exit early, with many pondering whether the three Lions have actually regressed under Thomas Tuchel in tennis. Meanwhile, it's Sylvia Alcaraz at the US Open final in New York.
It brings a bit of a change compared to Saturday. Outbreaks of heavy, perhaps thundery rain Some strong winds and some warmer temperatures too. Join me later for the full forecast with all the details.
It's just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
And I'm Anne Diamond, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Good morning, Joe. I'm slightly confused by the Daily Star Sunday today because they seem to be sort of being quite sarcastic about this plan from Lee Anderson that he mentioned at the Reform conference yesterday, to get every school child singing the national anthem every morning. Now, politics aside, I don't care what party you vote for or what party you like, so that's entirely up to you. I do think that the idea of singing the national anthem in schools is a good thing.
Yeah.
They compare it to what Mad Vlad, as they put it, does in Russia. But actually, it's what they do in America. Yeah. This is what they do in lots of countries. I've got a feeling they do something similar in France.
Yeah, lots of European countries do it.
Canada? But I don't know about Canada. No idea. But I think it's a really nice idea.
So do I. I can't see anything wrong with it at all.
No.
It's really interesting that Lee Anderson has decided to go with this because his speech day before yesterday, on the first day, was a brilliant speech, I have to say. And he talked about how his dad, he said that during his childhood, one of the worst things about the early morning was that he always woke up to the sound of his father's alarm clock because his dad would then get up, get his clothes on and go down and
Go to work.
And he said the only thing that was worse was when it was my alarm clock, but it was doing the same for me, and he used to get up, put his togs on and join his father down the pit. But he said nowadays we have a generation of young people who don't know the sound of an alarm clock. And I thought, I wonder if that's true.
Possibly.
You know, and then he went on to talk about how you should be proud of your country and what's wrong with the flags and all the rest of
But
it.
also be prepared to go and do a day's graft.
Yeah.
Which is what we should be doing. I'll tell you what's interesting. I know we've been going on about reform because it has been the Reform conference, and we are covering in full all the other conferences as and when they happen. Have no fear. However, what is interesting about this one this time round is it was obviously very, very buoyant, and the other major conferences are just not going to be like that, particularly the Labour conference.
So we've been
It's not
warned,
going to be
haven't we,
buoyant.
that the other conferences are going to be much more downbeat.
So it's just interesting. That dynamic is very, very interesting. It's a very interesting time.
But I mean, I know there are lots of schools in the country already that probably have a Union flag or whatever, an English flag, Scottish or Welsh or whatever. Everywhere you go in Wales, there's a Welsh dragon.
Yeah.
Why aren't we as proud? And we should be. But I think a lot of schools do already do it. But they don't necessarily sing the national anthem. But why not? Be good.
Why not?
Right. And it doesn't really matter your religious persuasion or even your ethnic persuasion.
No.
Or your ethnic
Your background.
Thank you. Because if you're in Britain, if you're in England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, whatever, you should be proud to live there.
Yes.
Because otherwise, why are you there?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Today, police suspect the killing of two boys in Melbourne's West may have been a case of mistaken identity.
He's a basketball player. He's not a criminal.
Sydney's northern beaches remain closed after a fatal shark attack. New South Wales locks in the Great Koala National Park, which will cover 476,000 hectares across the state's mid-north coast. And the Suns beat the Dockers by 1 point in a thriller at Perth Stadium. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Yvonne Yong. Police in Victoria say more needs to be done to address knife crime amid a rising youth gang activity after the stabbing murders of two boys in Melbourne's West overnight. Detective Inspector Graham Banks earlier gave an update on the investigation.
Witness and CCTV vision shows that these murders were committed by a large group of male offenders who appeared to be covered with face masks. They fled the scene in a vehicle that's yet to be identified, and vision shows that they were armed with machetes and long-edged weapons. whilst the investigation is in its early stage, it has the hallmarks of a youth gang crime. It is one of the most horrific crimes in a substantial and growing list of crimes of this nature. When we see crimes of this nature sometimes occur, and there's been some very, very brutal murders of this nature, there has been occasion where people have been targeted.
24 correspondents around the world.
Hello and welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. You're watching Daybreak on France 24. Our headlines this hour. Russia targets the Ukrainian capital in a massive overnight attack, with at least 2 people reported dead, including a 1-year-old baby. It's the second mass drone and missile attack to target Kyiv in the span of 2 weeks. Israel destroys the second high-rise and calls on residents to flee south as it intensifies its assault on Gaza City. But with designated safe zones regularly targeted, many Gazans say it makes no difference whether they stay or go. Look at the latest from our Jerusalem correspondent, Noga Tarnopolsky. And a surprise win for U.S. director Jim Jarmusch at the Venice Film Festival. He took home the Golden Lion for his film Father, Mother, Sister, Brother, starring Adam Driver and Cate Blanchett. Second place went to Gaza docudrama The Voice of Hind Rajab. Thank you for joining us. Headline news this hour, Anutin Chandrasekula has taken office as Thailand's new prime minister after being endorsed by the king. He received the royal command in a ceremony at his Boonjai Thai party headquarters in Bangkok. The construction tycoon won the parliamentary vote for premiership on Friday after Petchatan Shinawat was dismissed over an ethics violation late last month. He's been moving to form a new government and has named his picks for finance, foreign, and energy ministers. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has ordered an all-out response to the arrest of its citizens in a U.S. immigration raid at Hyundai's Cars battery plant in Georgia. Yonhap reports consular officials have begun meeting the detained South Koreans, and the foreign minister says he may go to Washington to meet with officials if needed. China says its forces trapped Australian and Canadian warships sailing through the Taiwan Strait, slamming the passage as provocation. Beijing warns the move sends the wrong signals and heightens security risks. At least 5 people have been killed after an evacuation boat capsized in flood-hit Pakistan. Swollen rivers affecting more than 4,000 villages, with authorities warning heavy rain will last until Tuesday. Floodwaters also inundating neighboring India, with thousands of hectares of land submerged. Rescue and relief efforts are underway across nearly all 23 districts in the northern state of Punjab. And that is the latest from the CNE Newsroom.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. The Israeli military has dropped leaflets across Gaza City ordering residents to move to an area described as a humanitarian zone in the south of the territory. Israel has ramped up its offensive on Gaza's most populous city, leveling another residential high-rise it claims was being used by Hamas. Thousands have rallied in Washington, D.C. to protest Donald Trump's deployment of National Guard troops. Community leaders say the military presence is more about intimidation than fighting crime. Trump says that they are necessary to uphold law and order and is threatening to send troops to other Democrat-led cities. Investigators looking into the deadly funicular crash that killed 16 people in Lisbon this week say a cable linking 2 carriages shortly before the disaster. Authorities said scheduled maintenance was up to date on the vehicle and an inspection of the crash. No issues from Berlin. You'll get more on our website. Africa News. The news. A
new report by a team of experts that visited eastern Congo between March and August warned of the prospect of war crimes and crimes against humanity that may have been committed since late 2024 and since the conflict escalated in January when M23 rebels seized the city of Goma.
Specifically, the report stresses that Rwanda is responsible for violations directly committed by its armed forces on the territory of the DRC. We have received credible allegations concerning the covert presence of RDF personnel within the M23.
The UN says Congolese forces also carry a degree of culpability. Their violations included deliberate killings of civilians, widespread use of sexual violence, mainly rape and gang rape, and looting.
The report also states that the DRC bears responsibility not only for the violations committed by its armed forces, but also by its affiliated armed groups, to the extent that their members acted under its direction or control.
The UN Human Rights Council is expected to consider the report at its upcoming session.
It is heartbreaking and deeply frustrating to witness once again the dehumanization of the civilian population by those in power who are failing in their responsibilities.
The report found that M23 rebels had carried out summary executions, torture, affecting thousands of civilians perceived as opposing the group, its authority, or recruitment.
It's the use of AI language models, so with AI-powered websites becoming part of daily life for millions around the world, some in Africa are concerned that citizens are being excluded from Western-focused software. Efforts are now being made in South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria to create more AI products in African languages. The use of AI is penetrating even villages where farmers are even incorporating ChatGPTs in translating some of the language modules.
Because I think farming is a lifelong learning experience. You hit a lot of challenges. You can see my cabbages, they're like opening. So, I can go into AI and ask them my cabbages are opening, what that is. Or I think for somebody in the rural areas like me who is not exposed to technology or anything, you can ask in a simple language.
There are already small examples of how indigenous languages used in AI can be used to solve real-life challenges in Africa, according to Professor Marivet.
Add their own innovations in those spaces, but we will provide some benchmark to say, here's Isindebele, for example, here's a new data set of audio with transcript for Isindebele, a language that in South Africa typically is one of the lowest resource in those spaces.
Researchers have recorded more than 9,000 hours of local speech to open up this transformative new technology to more people across the continent. These have vastly quantities of online text to transform.
In a very simple sense, we want people to have agency over their lives. From that perspective, we're engaging in assisting people in participating in a digital economy because they're now able to engage with these businesses that are providing essential products and services.
But as many African languages are mostly spoken rather than written down, there is a lack of text to train AI on to make it useful for speakers of those languages. 4 million across the continent, this means being left out.
Tonight, Chicago bracing for impact.
When you look at Chicago,
President Trump posting an ominous warning, alluding to deportations and a war over migrants.
I'm Javante here in Chicago, where some big events celebrating Latino culture have been postponed or canceled due to some community fears.
CBS News learning the Pentagon has begun to move in some 250 federal agents to North Chicago. Also tonight, cooling concerns.
I'm Nicole Killian at the White House, where the president's economic agenda is on the line as the latest jobs report offers mixed signals.
Plus, Israel targeting high rises in Gaza City.
I'm Haley Ott in London. As Israel prepares for a full-scale military assault on Gaza City, it's urging nearly 1 million residents to evacuate.
Weather alerts.
I'm meteorologist Andrew Kozak. I'll have the latest on the fire danger and poor air quality out west, plus the latest on Hurricane Kiko's path.
And later, Dream On. The quest for the $2 ticket to Easy Street.
I'm Elise Preston in Altadena, California, at what's been dubbed the luckiest lottery retailer in the country. I want to win.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York.
Tonight on PBS News Weekend, with turmoil at the CDC, some governors are joining forces to make their own vaccine recommendations. Then, why the Trump administration wants to eliminate the only federal agency that investigates chemical disasters. And a Grammy-nominated trio at the vanguard of a new movement in music, where vocals take a backseat to a moody, guitar-driven vibe.
When there's not the human touch on the voice, I think it's slightly more challenging, but I think it's a challenge that people enjoy.
Massachusetts, this street completely underwater. 33 million Americans from New England to Baltimore caught up in scattered thunderstorms, responding to 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts with bouts of hail and heavy rain. The
brief deluge in New York, causing tennis fans outside the U.S. Open to run for cover. Out west, hundreds of firefighters back on the front lines. Overnight, the fast-moving Pyron fire sparked evacuations in California's Europa Valley, about 60 miles east of Los Angeles. The fire, driven by high winds and heavy vegetation, swept over more than 400 acres before crews were able to contain the spread. Firefighters dousing the flames from above, while below, sheriff deputies going door to door.
For your safety, evacuate the area now.
California's now year-long fire season, so far scorching more than 425,000 acres this year. Right now, a series of more than 20 fires in Northern California still burning after the region was blasted by more than 10,000 lightning strikes earlier this week.
It's gone. This is what you have. I just don't have the words for it.
Meanwhile, Hawaii bracing for the impacts of the newly moving Hurricane Kiko, a Category 3, currently crawling toward the islands.
Of course, we hope for the best. But, the worst thing is to not be prepared and have regrets after.
The acting governor declaring a state of emergency with possible tropical storm force winds, heavy rainfall, and high surf as early as Monday.
Still got to go get oil, gas, propane, toilet papers. We've been through this before, so just making sure that everybody...
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.